Hey guys, welcome back. It's your girl JoJo. You already know what's up. I'm for sure gonna tell you what's real. Um, I just want to speak about like how the cycle of brokenness, like continues, because a lot of us in this world, we're damaged people. Yeah. And, therefore, that's why we should seek God, because God is our Father that's going to heal us from everything, that we are going through or that we have been through. And a lot of us, like are damaged people because of, like whoever you was raised by. We were all once, a baby. We were all once a kid, and there was someone that was taking care of us, another human being. Rather it was your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, your auntie, your uncle, your cousin, somebody, an auntie. There was always somebody watching you, or, child care system, someone, and whoever that person was, they were once a baby, a kid too, like they grew up from, like being hurt too, so if they didn't heal, and they already had a kid, like say, like I'm a parent, I had my kids at an age where I really wasn't supposed to have kids at that time in my life, because I was very broken, and how can you say, how can you do something like you're very broken, but yet you're still having sex, like, yeah, and that's what a lot of us, do, like it's a lot that we all have been through, there's certain things that people do, so, broken people just create more broken people. And a lot of us don't take the time, to heal ourselves first before we even start having sex and getting pregnant. I think that's one very important thing that should change in this world, is that if you haven't healed, from all the damage that you have been through, if you haven't healed, don't go get pregnant. And if you are going to have sex, like, I mean, you shouldn't, but like, I have no control over nobody, but if you are, at least don't get pregnant, because you're just going to create a broken human being, because like I would say, we was all taken care of by someone, and that person was probably broken, too, didn't heal, haven't healed or whatever, because, me, like, yeah, like, we're still like, probably like the youngest, I think I was like 7 or 8 years old when I was still living with my parents. But at that age, that's when they started to get the divorce, like we started seeing all these things happening, all of my brothers and sisters were already at an age where we were seeing all these things and hearing all these things. And, like that's at the age where my parents, my mom, left my dad, and everything just went the way it went. So, yeah, that's why I say, like, a lot of us are born, like out of broken people, and why my parents were broken, like, why did they act the way they acted, I'm not putting no blame on nobody or whatever, but, like, why were they the way they were, like, treating each other or whatever, who treated who or did what to who, like, why were they like that, where did they come from that made them like that they didn't heal, they were broken people, traumatized, like because of who was taking care of them, you know, whoever was taking care of them, you know, why were they not healed, you know, like why were they still hurt, you know, like what happened to them? So it goes on and on and on and on and on, you know. So that's why it's very important before you decide to want to be in a relationship with someone, you know, to heal from any damage that has been done to you, you know. And for that, you have to sit alone. You have to be alone. Because if you are with someone already, you know, if you are with someone, a partner or something, that partner is actually, you know, like a distraction, you know, from you healing, really. Because being in a relationship is a whole different, you know, thing from you being alone. You know, you being alone, you get to see and realize a lot of things, you know, that has happened to you that you didn't like, or that you did like, that you don't want, and what you do want, and what you want to accept, and what you don't want to accept, and what you should accept, and what you should not accept. It's a lot, you know. So it is good, you know, to be alone at some point in your life, you know, so you can heal, you know, before you want to get into a relationship, you know, and have children, you know, because if not, you will pass that hurt on, you know. And another thing is that us women have to be the ones that are very careful in that situation, because we are the ones that get pregnant, you know. We are the ones that have the child, you know, like 9 months, going through all kinds of changes, you know, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. We are the ones going through all those changes. Man can just come, you know, for a quick, you know, 10 minutes in your life, and boom, you're pregnant. And that man can walk right on out, and you'll probably never ever see him again. You know, all he came was just for 10 minutes just to get you pregnant, and that's it. He did. He ain't going through none of that issue you finna go through. Nothing. Okay? So that's why it's very important for the women, us women, you know, be careful with who you meet, you know. And we all have to know and always go back to what the Bible says, you know. Be careful. What does it say? Be careful with wolves in sheep's clothing. They're ravenous wolves, which are the men. You know, they come to you as nice, a good person, you know, like very helpful, you know, very loving, very kind. It's all fake. It's a mask they're wearing. Until they know that they got you where they want you, and they trapped you, however, you know, if it's financially or by getting you pregnant, and they know it, that mask is gonna come off like that. Really. And it's not a joke. It's not. It's not, because it ruins you. It ruins your relationship with your children. It ruins a lot. And I don't know, you know, like what happened to the man that he, you know, like is that way. That's what I'm saying. He comes from a broken family, so he's broken, so he just creates broken family. You know, so that's why you got to be careful with these men. The wolves in sheep's clothing. That's why us women, we have to be close to God. We have to pray. We have to use discernment. We have to. It's a way of life, you know. A lot of women out here, girlies, you know, they're thinking that no, being the hoe is the right thing, you know, like you want to live fast, you want to wear your hoochie clothes, you know, like you want to feel like you're the prettiest one, and that man's gonna want you, you know. And you want to live that life that, you know, all the rappers are saying, oh, she a bad bitch, she throwing it back, she know how to do this, she can do it like that, whatever, you know, all that nonsense. Like, life is not a joke, you know. And those type of men, they'll be in your life, you know, for a little while, but after that, you know, they'll just throw you away, you know, move on to the next, you know. So it's a lot, you know, in this world that us, you know, humans create, you know. So all I can say is heal, seek God, heal, you know. But then again, there's a lot of people in this world that's not gonna want to do it, that don't want to do it. You know, they want to stay in their ways. You know, they want to stay as they are. You know, and that's why we have to pray and use discernment. Because yes, most of us, you know, women, you know, like we do, you know, want to be in a relationship, want the family thing, you know. And sometimes we think the first man that looked at us like, oh, he's it. You know, he likes me. He says I'm the most beautiful one he's ever met, or I'm the smartest one he's ever been with. No one else, you know, has talked, you know, or acted like the way, you know, like we do. So they will say anything, anything. Because they already know what you're looking for. They already know what you want. It's something that they probably already lived through, you know, with their mom or whoever, you know, that was taking care of them. And so they know what to say and what not to say to a woman. Yeah. You know, they might be these, you know, wolves in sheep's clothing, but they still know what to say. So all I can say is just, you know, and a lot of us women, you know, like the way we grew up, you know, in our family homes or whatever, you know, a lot of us sometimes, you know, wasn't given the Bible. Here, read the Bible. No, you need to sit down and read the Bible. You know, no, you know, we probably watched our parents, you know, go to church, you know, if one of them did or if one of them didn't, you know, or our grandma did or someone did, you know, but we really didn't put no mind to it, you know. But a lot of times, you know, like our parents that had us, they were broken, right? But so of course at that time, you know, you didn't see them reading the Bible. You know, they didn't give you a Bible, say, here, read it, this is the book of life. You know, you're going to have to learn this. That's why I'm surprised, you know, like nowadays, like, why isn't the Bible, you know, like given to as, you know, like a school for you to learn, you know, like the public schools that we have, you know, that we're going to, like, yeah, we learn ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and how to subtract and multiply, you know, like, and what happened, you know, like in history or whatever, you know, but what about God? What about the book of life? Like, that's really, you know, what we need to let us know, you know, like, hey, that even some of these people in the school are cuckoos. So I feel like it's very important to add the Bible in the school. There should be a class. Yeah, there should be a class. Just like how there's a class for math and reading or whatever, there should be a class of the Bible too. It should be added. Why not? Jesus is the one, God is the one that created the heaven and the earth. Why not? But hey, it's a lot, you know, and it's a lot that, you know, like one has to heal from, you know, after all the damage, you know, after you come to realize, you know, like, hey, you know, that is not it. That's not healthy. That's not the way our life should be, you know. It should not. And it's a lot that you have to heal from. And you go through a roller coaster of emotions, you know, and drainage. Like you just drained, mentally drained, you know, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you know. It's a much. And I'm one of those persons that's been through a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So, yeah, guys, I don't know. Probably I'll make another story, you know, probably of some of the things that I've been through, you know. Probably this will help someone. I don't know, you know. But I believe that this is what we're here for while we go through things, you know, to share, you know, like what we experienced, what we've been through, how we learn from this, you know. Yeah. So that's how God wants to use us, you know. Yeah, you've been through something, you know, let someone else, you know, you know, like, yeah, it's a lot. See you guys.